Good morning everyone. In this video I'll be analysing the live price action for EU and DXY to see what day trading opportunities there may be. You're going to see my analysis and my strategy, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Okay, starting off here on the daily, we have EU at the top as usual and DXY below. So what do we see on the daily at the moment? So yesterday we closed out as slightly bullish doji. A doji usually shows some deceleration, but I'm not going to read into it too much, though we have pulled back because obviously there was red folder news, CPI yesterday. So we wicked both ways, right, and closed out near the open, which, you know, is fairly normal sometimes for news. So I won't read into it too much and assume that the pullback's over. Why? Because on DXY, we still have some room going upwards to move into. We have our daily fair value gap here, which is mostly filled, but we do have another imbalance above. So price may be heading that way. As you can see, DXY decelerated on the Friday, had a little bullish doji on the Monday, and also a bullish doji on Tuesday. Now you can see where it reached up and took this buy side liquidity and moved back down and closed out. But like I said, we still have this price draw possibly on the daily. Doesn't have to be filled immediately, but it is available. So what we can, see is just what I've mentioned, but we have to take into account that even though EU doesn't have that same imbalance, it doesn't mean there's not maybe a 4-hour or a 1-hour POI that we can pull back to within this discount of this leg. So that's what I see on the daily. We still have our previous daily high, previous daily lows intact. Price hasn't moved loads yet today, but that buy side and sell side liquidity is still available. So let's move on now to the 4-hour. Now looking at the 4-hour, we can see after we had our bullish run taking all this buy side liquidity, we have pulled back. We've pulled back quite correctively. There's no real momentum here. The structure is obviously still holding. We are obviously in a bullish trend on the 4-hour with our higher highs and higher lows. Price pulled back correctively into yesterday, even with the news, and we filled this 4-hour fair value gap. We filled it pretty much exact. We haven't gone into the 4-hour order block, right? So there's still room there to pull back or to pull back further into this imbalance down here or possibly down here. Those are in the future, but just an FYI on what our liquidity draws may be on the higher time frame. So just within this immediate leg here, you can see this nice corrective pullback that's creating, buy side liquidity to be targeted on the higher time frame. We filled our 4-hour fair value gap here, our imbalance. On DXY, we've also done the same. You can see we've pulled back, filled this 4-hour fair value gap, but as I've noted above here, we still have more premium price draws available and we have more discount ones available here. So this leg here, we are still pretty much in the discount on DXY, having taken our sell side liquidity. So there's definitely more room to keep being drawn for price to a premium and given a bullish DXY, which means a bearish EU. So we may come down further into this 1-hour order block, but the lower time frames will tell us how much we're respecting now that we've filled this imbalance here. So on the 1-hour, the trend is obviously very clear. We took out this buy side liquidity internally up here, right, on news. Since then, we pulled back and began to break structure internally. You can see we've got now the lower low, lower high, lower low, and potential lower high that would form here if this high stays strong and we respect this 1-hour fair value gap and POI area. You can see, let me zoom in. You can see the 1-hour fair value gap here has been filled this morning. We've taken some internal buy side liquidity as well. Doesn't mean price will reverse right here, but that looks good to continue this pullback, this lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low internal trend towards our discount price draw. We did not yesterday, we did not mitigate this area, so it looks like a draw on price still. We nearly mitigated this area on DXY. Obviously, this is also a 4-hour fair value gap and we filled ours. I just haven't drawn it in. There's a 1 hour imbalance here as well, which we filled to about 50%. So that has sponsored this pullback. Now, at the moment, I call it a pullback because this high still should be respected given the structure. However, obviously, if that changes, then of course, this would no longer be the structure in place, and we may be able to look at longs having respected this. However, my bias at the moment is to continue this internal trend, respecting this high. We've got a POI here, we've swept buy side liquidity, and this should be a weak low if our structure shifts. So we have our liquidity price draw. The last place liquidity was taken was buy side liquidity from up here and now in this POI. So price should be seeking out sell side liquidity as a draw on price. Same here on DXY. Now we haven't quite filled this 1 hour imbalance here as we have on EU. So that may, still need to be filled. However, the lower time frames will show, obviously we have divergence there showing strength on DXY. We obviously still have this price draw here, and then of course further premium price draws available, but the most immediate one would be at this previous daily high. You can see we've got the high low, high high, high low, high high. So again, this should be a strong low structure and a weak high. So it should be where price, well, not should be, but we can determine with our bias, that's where price would head to, having now filled this imbalance, this sell side liquidity target, and our confluences are giving us, the direction that we can be bullish towards this higher time frame POI and buy side liquidity. So now let's look at the M15. We'll see what day trading opportunities we may have available to us right now, or we'll go through some scenarios for what may happen. So on the M15, you can see we're working with this 1 hour price leg here and 15-minute price leg. So this is our premium, this is our discount. Price has pulled back into the premium of this leg. We've swept Asia buy side liquidity. We're in a 1 hour fair value gap. London has now swept London Open and Frankfurt as well. We obviously took buy side liquidity from this London high yesterday as well, which sponsored our move down. This was obviously on CPI. All right, so we've took this buy side liquidity and buy side liquidity from above here, just about. It's a 1 hour order block, which we mitigated and rejected. We went down and we made a massive corrective pullback overnight, created a range during Asia, and now into London. We've taken both sides of that range. We've now taken some more internal buy side liquidity here, which is great for us to go with our bias to sponsor a move downwards. So this is where our internal buy side liquidity has now been swept, and we can now think, where's our next draw on liquidity, right? In the lower time frames it's here, and on the higher time frame it's obviously below here and down towards this discount. So we've got good targets, we've got good confluences, we've got structure, continuing with the order flow and the internal trend. Now we also have SMC divergence. Obviously we see that our 1 hour fair value gap here was not filled, but it mostly was. We have this low here, high low. We have this high here, high high. So that should have been a lower low on DXY. However, the higher low indicates that DXY has shown some strength because it's refused to make a new low, right? So with these confluences, our POI, our buy side liquidity, our SMC divergence, our break of structures and whatnot, we can determine that, yes, it looks good to go short. So I wouldn't be looking for longs here at all. So my first opportunity would be to continue how price is moving now. We swept this buy side liquidity. We break that structure and just a simple pullback to our POI. Obviously there doesn't have to be this many legs in the pullback, but as long as it looks nice and corrective, and we can target wherever, ultimately down here, we see price going down there. And that for me would be the first opportunity. It'd be the opportunity I'm looking for and I would hope for. We may see it form on the 5 minute, of course. 5 minute has now made this little structure. It may break this structure, start giving some sort of pullback, look something like that. You may see it happen on the 5 minute first. Obviously this is the 15 minute low. which would be great to break as well. But if it breaks, it may not come back. So we'll see how it happens. But this does look good, having swept the buy side liquidity, the early sellers, they've been swept, we're in our premium, and we've got all of our confluences lined up. So that does look good to me. So now that is the best sell opportunity I see at the moment. There may be continuations, you know, if you miss this, it may create structure and do it again. So that's always viable. If I'm looking for buys, it wouldn't be anywhere near here. Of course, it's going to be after the previous daily low sell side liquidity is taken. You know, you're going to want to see some sort of structure here, break above, pull back again to go higher. But the best place would be obviously down here in this POI, and we'd want to see that structure shift because they should be aligned in these areas. Bearing in mind there's obviously further POIs that could be aimed for above, but that would be the best area to look for buys in, because then we'd have some major sell side liquidity taken from the higher time frame lows and we'd have a POI. So I believe that was nice and quick and clear. Today's presenting some clear stuff early in the morning, so I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.